Very wild story. I heard about this story a couple years ago. There's been an update on this story. Apparently, this guy, Ethan Crumbley, he committed the heinous act of going into a school and ending some people's lives and destroying the lives of parents. So he just destroyed a whole bunch of lives. But because of what developed as they looked into this kid, his parents got sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison for manslaughter. They didn't do anything, but the jury apparently was able to read these notes that he had. And one of the notes said, "I have zero help for my mental problems, and it's causing me to shoot up," where he did. And he's like, "I want help, but my parents don't listen, so I can't get help." And on top of that, his parents had a firearm. He had access to that firearm. And because of that, this judge just decided, hey, that means you're responsible. I don't really know how I feel about this. I would love to know how everybody feels about this. This is very odd to me. So now these people are basically, when you're an older person, this is basically a chunk of it's not quite life, but it's up there. But they're serving that because of what their kid did. I don't know. I think this is kind of weird. I don't know about anybody else. I get it. You're responsible for what your kid does. Definitely. But your kid decides to do this heinous act. And because he lives in your house and he stole your firearm, you're accountable. And he said, "I want to get help, but my parents won't let me get help." I don't know, man. I don't know. Because they're just reading that, but they don't know what the actual story was between the kid and the parents. And maybe they read more of his, not a manifesto, it was more of a diary. Maybe they read more and there was more into it. Here's a little bit, let's go deeper into this a little bit. But I really want to know what people think about this. Listen to this.
I was sitting right behind many of the victims, and throughout a lot of the sentencing today, you could just hear the sighs and see the tears, and it's just emotional. But when Jennifer and James spoke, because they have a right to speak too, almost you could hear gasps and lack of remorse, and really trying to push the blame on anyone else but themselves, and a lot of blame to the Oxford High School. It's not what this case was about, and Judge Cheryl Matthews saw through that. She gave the Crumbleys 10 to 15 years. That's the maximum sentence allowed under our guidelines here. And what that means is that the Crumbleys will spend 10 years in prison before they are eligible for parole. They'll get credit for the 2.5 years or so that they've already been in jail, but still, no good time in Michigan. We don't have it. And if they're good prisoners, they'll be out after 10 years. But if they're bad, they'll stay in. And after 15 years, they have to be let out. All right, where do we go from here? Well, first of all, the judge sentenced them above the state guidelines, so now there could be a criminal appeal. There could also be a civil appeal. We'll get into that for a moment. But right now, we've had 3 cases and 3 convictions and 3 maximum sentences, but yet no victory lap for Karen McDonald, the prosecutor. Take a look.
The parents in that courtroom have been deprived of their constitutional right to be parents.
Clearly no victory lap for prosecutor Karen McDonald, as she sympathizes with the victims.
It's really hard to have to remark about how hard we work and how hard it's been when you're looking in the eyes of these parents every day who get up in unbelievable pain and grief.
I feel that all the sentences were just, and I just hope that that we can get through this next step with the same type of outcome and clarity and accountability and transparency and you know all the E's that we're looking for.
And the next step would be the civil case. You think you're going to get more information now that the criminal trial is over?
There's no question I'm going to get everything now.
Why was the prosecutor holding evidence?
You tell me, and I was fighting the prosecutor to get that evidence when we had subpoena power until the case is now on stay, which, as you know, means I can't do anything. But we were fighting the County of Oakland, we were fighting the prosecutor, and we were fighting the Sheriff Department on their failure to give us every single piece of evidence.
All right, so that will be the civil case. Now that the criminal case is over, usually criminal cases, they do take precedent, but in the civil case, that will go forward. We'll be talking about that. But let me talk about a criminal appeal. Actually, both Crumbleys were given paperwork today to start the appellate process, and there will be issues, some evidentiary issues, and even because the judge went over sentencing guidelines, that's an appealable issue as well. But for now, the bulk of the case, the criminal case now, is over, and like the other cases here, the shooting case where he got the maximum sentence, the parents now 10 to 15 years, the maximum sentence. But we're not done yet, but we're getting there.
Representatives of the group. Oh yeah, that's a news channel for you. You're just gonna watch whatever we say. Get out of here. Anyway, after watching that, I don't know. I don't think they should get the maximum sentence. I think they're responsible, right? I'm a parent. I want to be responsible for their sickness, for their health, all that stuff. Of course, if they get hurt, if they, we're gonna, you got to put up gates, you got to lock things up, you got to do all sorts of things when you have kids. Different ages, you got to do different things, of course. But I don't know if they should. 10 years, 15 years. That's a long time for not raising your kid right. And that's just me just blanket statementing the whole situation, just like, you must not raise your kid right. But who knows? Maybe they did everything right. Maybe the help he was asking for was something that they couldn't afford. Maybe he just wrote, they won't listen. But maybe they just really couldn't afford to get him the help that he needed. Like, I don't know. The only thing I can really see coming good of this is maybe sometimes they'll look into, it's not this child doesn't have this case because they didn't give him any kind of help, but maybe they'll start going, a parent will be liable if their child does something like this that's so horrible, and then they'll go, well, he's on this, and this, so what are the side effects for that? And if we have to answer for it, then so do these companies. And they'll be like, what about these SSRIs? Look into it. Like, let's see all the side effects. He had 9 of these side effects. This is your fault. Like, maybe they'll be able to do that because, that finger should be pointed at that industry a little bit. They tend to be a little more immune than they should be. But I don't know, man. 15 years, 10 years, because your kid decided he's going to grab this and go to this place and do something terrible. Man, like, here's the thing. What if he decided to jump in a car and then they had a liquor cabinet? He grabbed the liquor. He does 6 shots at a time. He throws the bottle in the car, goes for a drive, and hits somebody. Would that be their fault too? As a parent, you would feel like it is, because no matter what your kid does and no matter how hard you try, if your kid does something horrible, you're going to be like, I wish, like, what did I do? I messed up. I should have been better. I should have been there more. I shouldn't have worked as much. You're always going to go through that on an emotional level. But are you going to be now liable criminally? I don't know if you should be. I really don't know. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments of this whole thing. I just saw this while I was going through Twitter, and I was like, I thought it was fake. I saw this guy here posted it, shout out to Dom. And I was like, this can't be real. Because sometimes this guy posts some questionable stuff. So I'm like, this can't be real. And I go look into it, and it's real. It really just happened. Just on Tuesday, they got sentenced just last week. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments of this whole thing. Should parents be liable? Should parents be criminally tied to their children and the acts that they commit if the child's living in their house? And when we say child, we mean teenager, young adult? I don't know. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe less time. Maybe a year. If I heard a year, I'd be like, okay. If I heard a fine or something, I'd be like, okay. If I heard something like, you got to pay the family's funerals and legal bills and therapy bills, I'd be like, okay, I understand all that. But you're just 15 years? Like they did it themselves? I don't know about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and I'm out.